There are moments in every man's life when the burden feels too heavy to bear, when the path ahead appears so steep, so unforgiving that the mind whispers, "Turn back." When failure has knocked often and hard and doubt settles in like a heavy fog. If you are in such a moment now, hear me clearly. This is not your end. This is your test. You see, success does not come to those who coast effortlessly forward. It comes to those who continue when continuation seems foolish. It comes to those who stand unwavering when every part of them wishes to fall. Giving up is easy. That is why so many do it. To persist, however, to persist when you are weary, when you are bruised, when you feel unseen and unrewarded, this is rare. And this is precisely why persistence is so powerful. Consider this. The greatest breakthroughs do not occur in the bright, enthusiastic beginning. They occur in the darkness, when excitement has faded and all that remains is discipline and choice. This is where champions are made, not in the easy days, but in the difficult ones. Not when the world cheers you on, but when it is silent. Ask yourself, how many times in the past did you feel like quitting, yet pressed on? And later, in hindsight, realized that moment was a turning point. There is wisdom in this reflection. The mind often seeks escape in the middle of the storm, unaware that the sky clears just beyond the next ridge. The truth is, most give up right before the tide turns. They stop when the soil is richest. They abandon the race just before the finish line appears. If you feel frustration, if you feel exhausted, understand, you are not failing. You are building. This is what growth feels like. It is uncomfortable, yes. It stretches you, it tests you, and it demands more than you thought you could give. But it is working. Every struggle endured is a deposit in your account of strength. Every challenge faced is a sharpening of your character. You may believe that success favors the talented, but observe the world carefully. It does not. It favors the resilient. It favors the man who does not retreat in the face of temporary defeat. Talent may give a head start, but persistence crosses the finish line. Talent dazzles, persistence endures. And here is another truth. Giving up does not remove the pain. It only trades one kind of pain for another. The pain of effort and discipline may weigh heavy now, but it passes. It transforms into satisfaction, into confidence, into legacy. The pain of quitting, however, lingers. It whispers forever in the background, asking, what if you had gone on? What if you had seen what was waiting on the other side? That is the pain you must avoid at all costs. You stand now at a crossroads. One road offers comfort, release, and temporary relief. The other offers uncertainty, hardship, and continued effort. Choose wisely. For while the first road is easy, it leads nowhere. The second, though treacherous, leads to everything you want. Remember this. Progress is often invisible at first. The roots grow beneath the surface long before the tree breaks through the earth. The muscles strengthen before they show. The mind expands quietly, in solitude, before wisdom appears to the world. Do not mistake the absence of visible results for the absence of progress. If you are showing up, if you are working, you are moving forward, even when it does not yet show. Before you give up, listen closely. You are closer than you think. The mountain feels tallest at the summit. The urge to surrender is strongest when victory is nearest. That is not coincidence. It is nature's final exam, asking, do you truly want what you say you do? Answer boldly. Stand firm, not just today, but tomorrow and every day thereafter. For when you refuse to give up, something remarkable happens. Life eventually yields to the man who does not back down. Persistence is not about emotion. It is about commitment. Too often, we make the mistake of believing that to continue, we must feel motivated. We imagine that to endure, we must be inspired each day. But the man who achieves understands a deeper truth, that feelings are fleeting, but commitments endure. Look closely at those who have reached the heights of success. You will find they were not the most excited each day, nor were they always the most passionate. What they were above all else was reliable. They honored their word to themselves. They kept moving, even when the flame of enthusiasm burned low. And in doing so, they kept the fire alive long enough for it to reignite. There will be days when your mind seeks reasons to stop. It will remind you of your past failures. It will highlight the mountain yet to climb. It will ask, "Is this worth it?" And you must answer firmly, "Yes, because I said it was." This is the mark of the disciplined man. He trusts his previous decision more than his temporary feelings. He remembers why he began, and he lets that memory guide him forward. You see, quitting is seductive because it promises relief. It tells you you don't have to struggle anymore. But what it doesn't tell you is the cost. It does not mention the regret. It does not show you the quiet disappointment that follows. It does not warn you about the slow erosion of self-respect that comes each time you abandon a worthy pursuit. Only persistence grants the rewards that quitting promises falsely. There is something else. Each time you persist in the face of resistance, you are not merely moving toward your goal. You are changing who you are. You are teaching yourself that you are trustworthy. You are proving that you can count on you. And that lesson, that inner certainty, will serve you far beyond the current challenge. It will shape your identity. Others may not see the battle, but you will know. You will carry the confidence that comes only from keeping promises to yourself. This is why persistence pays dividends that go far beyond the visible rewards. Yes, success will come. Yes, the goals will eventually be achieved. But more importantly, you will have forged strength. The kind of strength that does not depend on the approval of others. The kind of strength that does not crumble when life inevitably applies pressure. This is what persistence buys. Not just outcomes, but fortitude. Consider, too, the ripple effect. When you refuse to give up, you send a powerful message to those around you. You show them, often without words, what it looks like to endure. You become a source of inspiration. Perhaps even more important, you become a source of permission. Your persistence gives others the courage to persist as well. They see you stand firm and they are emboldened to do the same. And so you must ask yourself, who do I wish to become? A man who runs when resistance arrives, or a man who stands when it matters most? The answer to this question determines your future far more than any temporary failure or setback. The world yields eventually to the man who refuses to yield himself. Understand this final truth of persistence. You do not need to know how every step will unfold. You do not need to see the entire staircase. You need only to continue climbing. Each step forward reveals the next. Each day of persistence opens doors that quitting would have forever closed. When you feel like giving up, good. That is the signal that you are pushing into new territory. That is the indication that growth is near. Remember, fatigue and frustration are not signs to stop. They are signs you are on the edge of expansion. Step forward anyway. Especially then, for the man who does not give up, life eventually offers what it hides from the impatient. It offers progress, it offers wisdom, and ultimately it offers victory. There is a law, silent and impartial, that governs all progress, the law of accumulation. You may not see it each day, you may not feel it in every effort, but know this: every action you take, no matter how small, is recorded in the ledger of your life. Nothing is wasted. Not the early mornings when no one notices, not the late nights when no one applauds, not the quiet victories over laziness and distraction. All of it is added up, and all of it pays dividends in time. This is why persistence is so critical. Every day that you refuse to give up, you are depositing energy, skill, resilience, and momentum into your account. And though the balance may appear unchanged for weeks, even months, there will come a moment, sudden and undeniable, when the compound interest of your effort will reveal itself. To the world, it may seem like you have arrived overnight, but you will know the truth. You will know that success arrived quietly, gradually, and inevitably, because you never stop. Persistence also reshapes how you interpret failure. Where the untrained mind sees failure as an end, the persistent mind sees feedback. Every mistake becomes a message. Every setback becomes data. You learn, you adjust, and you press on. You realize that no failure is fatal. Unless you decide to stop, as long as you continue, failure becomes a servant, not a master. This is why the persistent become wise. Each obstacle they overcome sharpens their perspective. Each detour teaches patience. Each hardship instills humility. They do not simply accumulate success, they accumulate understanding. And in a world obsessed with shortcuts and hacks, wisdom is the ultimate advantage. But what of the cost? What of the sacrifice? Make no mistake, persistence requires payment. It will demand your comfort. It will ask for your ego. It will take from you the right to complain and to blame. These are prices the average man is unwilling to pay, and that is why his rewards are average. But the man who persists gladly accepts this trade. He knows that temporary discomfort is nothing compared to permanent regret. Consider this carefully. What happens when you give up? You do not merely stop moving forward. You begin to move backward. For while you pause, the world continues. Others pass you. Momentum fades. Muscles, mental and physical, weaken. You do not remain where you are. You regress. Giving up is not neutral. It is negative. And yet, persistence does the opposite. It creates momentum. It pulls you forward, even on the days when you feel heavy and unmotivated. What once felt difficult becomes automatic. What once seemed impossible becomes familiar. You move from forcing effort to flowing in effort. This is the quiet power of consistency. Persistence makes excellence inevitable. As you continue, something even more valuable emerges. Persistence breeds self-respect. You begin to trust yourself in ways that cannot be faked. You know deep within that you will not quit. This knowing becomes your foundation. It makes you unshakable. When storms come, and they always do, you do not panic. You endure. You have faced the voice that says, "Give up," and you have answered with action. This is the quiet victory few will ever experience. To be a man who keeps going when no one is watching. To be a man who finishes what he starts. To be a man who does not rely on circumstances, but relies on his own decision to continue. And so you press on. Not because success is guaranteed, but because quitting guarantees nothing. You persist because every step forward is a vote for the man you are becoming. You persist because, in the end, the reward is not merely in what you achieve, it is in who you become through the journey. This is why you must never give up, not because it is easy, not because the road is smooth, but because the man you wish to become is waiting for you on the other side of persistence. By this stage, something remarkable begins to unfold, not only in your results, but deep within yourself. The man who refuses to give up discovers a secret only the persistent ever learn. The struggle itself becomes your greatest strength. While others avoid hardship, you embrace it. Where they search for ease, you search for growth. And in doing so, you become something rare, something powerful. You begin to notice it in your mind first. The thoughts that once whispered doubt now whisper certainty. Where you once asked, "Can I do this?" you now ask, "How far can I go?" This is no accident. It is the natural result of earned confidence, not the shallow bravado that fades in the face of adversity, but the deep, steady knowing that comes from having met challenge after challenge and survived them all. Persistence rewrites your identity. You no longer think of yourself as someone trying to succeed. You now know yourself as someone who continues no matter what. This self-image is transformative. For a man will always act according to how he sees himself. When you believe you are resilient, you become resilient. When you believe you are unstoppable. But this transformation is not only internal, the external world begins to reflect it back to you. Opportunities you once missed begin to appear. People who once overlooked you begin to notice. Doors that remained closed begin to open, not by chance, but because persistence has earned you a seat at the table. The world may not reward the talented right away, but it always, always rewards the relentless. Understand this clearly. Life is not a contest of brilliance. It is a contest of endurance. The intelligent man often falters when the path becomes hard. The gifted man sometimes retreats when results do not come quickly. But the man who continues, the man who refuses to surrender, will outlast them all. Not because he was favored, but because he was faithful to the work. At this point, your relationship with effort changes. What once felt like strain now feels like service. You no longer view hard work as punishment. You see it as the gateway to everything worthwhile. You understand that the easy path leads only to regret, while the difficult path leads to glory. And so, you choose difficulty willingly. You choose discipline gladly. You choose the road others avoid because you know exactly where it leads. And what about setbacks? You welcome them now. You understand that every setback carries within it a seed of advancement. Each time you are delayed, denied, or disappointed, you do not fold. You ask, what must I learn here? You see the lesson, you apply it, you improve, and you continue. Setbacks to the persistent man are not blockades, they are. By refusing to give up, you also gain another priceless gift, peace of mind. You sleep well, not because every day is easy, but because you know you gave your all. There is no torment in wondering, what if I tried harder? You know the answer, because you try harder every single day. This peace is reserved only for those who stay the course. And finally, persistence gives you a sense of inevitability. You begin to realize that success is not a matter of if, but when. You do not hope anymore, you expect. You do not wish anymore, you work. You understand now that by simply continuing, by simply refusing to stop, the odds tilt in your favor. The world makes way for the man who refuses to walk away. This is why, before you give up, you must remember this. You are closer than you think. The world does not reward those who start, but those who finish. Stay the course, see it through. The prize does not go to the man who had the easiest path. It goes to the man who had the strength to keep walking, long after others had given up. The man who persists becomes different in ways few can ever imagine, not just in his results, but in his presence. There is a weight to him, a calmness, a quiet certainty that can only come from one source, the knowledge that he did not give up. This is no small thing. The world is filled with those who almost made it. Men who began with excitement but faltered when the road grew steep. Their lives are filled with what could have been had they stayed the course. But not you. You are becoming the exception. You are becoming the man who stayed, who endured, who paid the price in full and without complaint. Persistence reshapes your relationship with time itself. Where others seek instant results, you are content to play the long game. You understand that real success, the kind that lasts, the kind that echoes beyond your own life, is never built overnight. It is the product of quiet, patient effort, repeated day after day. You know now that time is not your enemy. It is your ally, provided you keep moving forward. And as you continue, you begin to separate from the pack, not because you are better, but because so few are willing to do what you have done. Most choose the comfort of quitting. They seek the relief of release. But relief is temporary, and regret is forever. You, however, have chosen the opposite. You have chosen the discomfort of persistence. And in doing so, you have chosen the permanence of success. You will begin to see this reflected in subtle ways. Problems that once felt overwhelming will now appear manageable. Tasks that once required force now flow with ease. Where once you felt the sting of uncertainty, you will now feel the calm of mastery. This is the reward of those who stay the course. Things do not necessarily become easier, but you become stronger. In this strength lies another gift: independence. You no longer rely on favorable conditions. You do not need everything to align perfectly before you act. The man who persists learns to move through storms, through setbacks, through moments when all seems against him. And because he does, he becomes self-reliant. He becomes immovable. Others wonder how he does it. The answer, of course, is simple. He just never stops. Persistence also begins to attract something else. Respect. Not the shallow admiration reserved for the lucky or the loud, but deep, quiet respect. People will begin to look to you differently. They will seek your counsel, drawn not by your words, but by your example. Without saying a thing, you will become a leader. Because leadership is not claimed, it is earned. And it is earned through the one currency most are unwilling to spend: consistency. But as you reach this level, you must be careful. Success, though desirable, carries its own dangers. Chief among them is complacency, the temptation to ease up, to slow down, to rest on what you have already done. Many great men fell, not in the climb, but at the summit. Do not make this mistake. Let your persistence continue even after victory arrives. For the moment you stop pushing forward, decay begins. True persistence is not a sprint toward a single goal. It is a way of life, a decision to keep growing, keep advancing, keep becoming. No matter how much you have already achieved, when you persist beyond the point of necessity, you move from success to significance. You stop merely achieving goals, and you start leaving a legacy. And so you continue. Not because you are desperate, not because you are chasing something, but because persistence has become part of who you are. You persist now because you could not imagine doing anything else. You are no longer the man who hopes to succeed. You are the man who has decided to succeed. And that decision, backed by unwavering persistence, makes success inevitable. And so we arrive at the final truth. The journey of persistence is not only about reaching your goals, it is about who you become through the process of refusing to quit. Each moment you chose to continue when quitting would have been easier, you were not merely chasing success. You were shaping character. You were sculpting the very foundation of a life lived on your own terms. Look back, if only for a moment. Reflect on the days when doubt screamed loudly. Remember the moments when results were invisible and discouragement crept into your thinking. And yet, here you stand. You passed through storms that seemed insurmountable. You walked through nights so long they felt endless. Still, you did not yield, and because of this you stand taller today. Understand this: quitting is common, stopping is ordinary. Walking away is the story most people will tell themselves for the rest of their lives. But you chose the uncommon path. You chose to remain when comfort begged you to leave. And in doing so, you stepped into a rare and powerful group, those who finish. You must realize that persistence does not simply shape your outcomes, it shapes your identity. You begin to see yourself as unshakable, immovable, and above all trustworthy in your own eyes. And this perhaps is the most valuable reward of all. For when a man trusts himself, there is nothing he cannot attempt. He does not hesitate, he does not ask permission. He moves boldly and decisively in the direction of his vision. The world, too, responds differently to the man who does not quit. Opportunities begin to align, people begin to trust, challenges begin to feel smaller. Why? Because the man who has overcome his own weakness has little left to fear. He has been tested by rejection, failure, and fatigue, and he has prevailed. Life respects such men. It opens its doors to them. But let us be clear. Persistence is not a single decision. It is many. It is deciding every morning to continue. It is deciding every afternoon to push further. It is deciding every night when energy fades to prepare for the next day. Persistence is not once, it is always. And there will come a day, you will recognize it, when the fight feels different. When pushing forward no longer feels like a battle but like breathing. When persistence is no longer a burden but simply your nature. On that day, quitting will seem foreign to you. The idea of giving up will no longer be tempting. You will wonder how you ever considered it, for you will have become the man who does not give up. You will have become the man who continues. You will have become the man who finishes. And as others wonder how you achieved so much, you will know the quiet truth, that it was not luck, not talent, not favorable conditions. It was simply this: you stayed when they left. You continued when they paused. You finished what they abandoned. Before you give up, remember this: your greatest victories are waiting on the other side of persistence. They are hidden just beyond the point where most men stop. Step forward, keep going, refuse to surrender. For the man who refuses to quit is the man who will win